All right. I want to give you guys a quick run through this workflow that I have created recently. So what this workflow enables is for you to create prompts via speech rather than typing them on the keyboard. So as you can imagine, that makes the process much more streamlined and also natural to interact with because you will not have to indirectly communicate, via another medium like the keyboard, but rather just with your natural speech and voice directly. And as you can imagine, that makes things much, much faster, much more intuitive. And what this workflow also enables is to then make changes to the existing prompt so that you can then start changing things in the existing image and then start refining things until you're happy with it. So let's just quickly jump in and play around a little bit so that you can get an idea what this workflow is all about. And as you can also see here, this is the Flux de-distilled Turbo Edition. It's still blazingly fast. I've optimized here some settings so that iterating is super fast and the image quality, despite it being, using these LoRa's to basically distill out certain stuff from the model to make it run faster, but without sacrificing too much quality. And this works actually surprisingly well. You will see in a second. So let me just quickly give you a run through what's going on here. This all looks more complicated than it actually is because you really don't have to interact with almost anything here to get started. So the main things that you will be interacting with is going to be the start button here on the speech prompt node, and then also the switch node here. And if you prefer to use text input instead of speech, you can then switch this to 2 to just do it via text instructions. And you don't have to be afraid of, saying anything in detail whatsoever, not at all. You can really just give some vague descriptions, mumble something into the microphone, and then it's going to create the prompt that you will then see on the right here. And even if it's a total mess, it's no problem because in the bottom section you will be able to then completely edit the prompt and change up everything. So there's no real way to do something wrong, really. So let's just get started. Let's make sure to keep this at 1. So it's going to accept the speech prompt input. And yeah, let's just jump in and let's get started. So let me just, try some random things. For example, let's see. Create a moment of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Then you will see it's going to stop the recording and it's going to queue things automatically. Because I haven't run the workflow yet after restarting Conf UI, it is first downloading in the models and everything, which can take a little bit of time, but it's not too bad. It's already loaded. It already created the prompt here, and now it's already generating. Okay, I guess it doesn't know too much about Evangelion. Let's make sure, though, to keep this bottom part disabled when we work on it. And let's try something else. Create a moment of Naruto. And you can see here it goes through the ChatGPT node that is then sending it to the, it's using the API key down here that you have to add in. As you can see, now we have a Naruto version here. And then if you want to create some more versions, the seed is already set to randomize, so you just have to click Q prompt again. And then it's going to send out the queue again. And it's actually going to generate a new prompt as well. Because our instruction was very general, it's going to create some random stuff here. Naruto Uzumaki stands atop the Hokage monument. As you can see, ChatGPT is kind of just adding its own thing in there since you haven't provided too much details. Let's just queue a few more times until we have something, nice looking. So this is then how you can just rapidly play around with ideas without worrying about the prompt at all, basically. About the structure and everything, because ChatGPT does that for you. Now let's just try something else. Create a moment in Jurassic Park, for example. Sorry, let's cancel this. Create a moment in Jurassic Park. There you go. It created a scene from Jurassic Park. Let's queue again and let's see what it's going to come up with. Now it's the kitchen scene with the velociraptors. And now, for example, if we like this scene, we can then just go down here and then disable base prompt and then enable iterative instruct. And then we come down to here, which looks very similar to the top one. But this section is then there to edit the existing prompt. As you can see, so basically what you have to make sure is define the path where the prompt should be saved. And then everything else, the loading of the prompt and whatnot, is then going to be handled automatically by the workflow. So it's basically writing out a prompt.txt into this path. And when you look here, it's saving that prompt. Here's the name that's specified, and then that it's a txt. And down here, then it's loading the text file. And the path is also derived from here, which is also injecting the path into here as well. So let's make sure to have base prompt disabled, so only one should be enabled at a time. And now let's instruct. So the important thing though is you have to make sure that if you're going to use the speech instruct, that the input is set to 1. Otherwise, it's going to use the text instruct, which is empty right now, which is basically then not going to modify the prompt. And then you will just get the same image, but with a different seed. Let's just quickly try that basically. So if I just set this to 2 and then Q, then you will see here it only added a dot, but nothing else. And then it's basically the same prompt still. And it's then just going to generate, images of the same thing, but without changing the prompt. So now, but if you wanted to change the prompt, you can do it via text here as well. But we want speech, so let's switch it to 1 and then click the start button here again. And then give it some extra instruction. Let's say, add another velociraptor into the prompt. Now it stopped and then passed it on. It queued the job automatically. If you don't see the second Velociraptor, let's just switch this to 2 and then queue and see a few more times if the Velociraptor is showing up. It doesn't yet. Let's queue again. Okay, now we have it. But if you queue it multiple times and the Velociraptor doesn't show up, it means there's something wrong with the prompt. It could be that the Velociraptor, the second one, is too below, in the prompt. We can just with Control F. Okay, it's already mentioned at the top, so it should basically work. Let's just generate a few more times to see if it's consistent, which it's not. And then now we can actually instruct, we can tell ChatGPT our problem, and then it's going to try to find a solution for us. So let's say the second Velociraptor is not consistently visible in every image generation. Can you modify the prompt so that it's going to make it more consistent? So then, as you can see, the instruct is added in here, and then it edits the prompt and then passes it on. Now let's set it back to 2 here, the switch, and then just queue a few more times to see if it's more consistent now. Okay, here we have it as well in there. Nice, so now it seems to be more consistent. Yeah, there are like some broken gens, but that's normal, that happens, especially with so few steps used currently. Anyway, so now it works. Now we have our 2 Velociraptors, and now let's add, like a child running away from them. Add a child in the prompt who is running away from the 2 Velociraptors. As you can see now, we have the child in there. Set this to 2 again because I want to generate a few more gens with different seeds. This one looks pretty broken, right? So, all right, let's generate a few more. Yeah, so this is working though. So we have the child in there, right? And now you can basically via speech just change everything up. For example, let's say now for them not to be in the kitchen, but let them be outside in the jungle, for example. Change the environment to be in a jungle. Let's set it back to 2 here and then Q again to see if we will see the child more consistently. Missing in here. Missing there. So the child is not in there very consistently. So let's ask ChatGPT to change up the prompt for the child to be visible more consistently. So the child is not coming out in the image generations consistently. Can you move the child further up in the prompt further at the beginning? Now we can see it. Now let's try again. A few more seeds. Nice, we see it there. Okay, so now the child is visible much more consistently. Some generations are broken, which is kind of normal. It could be because of my custom LoRa here. Let's disable that real quick. So yeah, it's working pretty well, except, some glitches, but this is the turbo version basically, where the quality is reduced a lot. But this is really great to block out any given scene and then use this prompt basically in a higher quality workflow. Let's quickly do that. So I'm just going to grab this prompt, and then I have a second workflow here where I can paste it in and then just cue the prompt, and then let's see what we will get. Obviously, this takes much longer. That's why, just for finding the ideas and everything, the speech turbo version is just so much more handy, right? To just block out the scene and the setting and everything. And then when you want to see a high quality output, you just bring it into whatever workflow you prefer. And then this is what we get. And this is without an upscale. So once I would upscale this, the quality would be much better. So let's go back here. So dinosaurs, nice. So let's go back and just try out something else. Now let's, for example, say, create an image of a cute kitten playing in the garden. So then we have this. And then again, we just switch back to the iterative instruct section. Now let's say, for example, no, let's not forget to set this to 1. And now let's say, change the background to be in a desert. Change the background to be at the beach. Add a puppy that is chasing after the kitten. Now let's set it to 2 here and do a few generations to see if it's consistent. Pretty consistent. For example, I don't want the butterflies, so I'm going to say, remove the butterflies. Okay, the dog looks kind of messed up. Let's ask it to fix that. The puppy kind of looks messed up. Can you make it look cute and fluffy? Can you make the kitten's fur longer and its color to be black? Yeah, so it's working pretty well. Let's change the color again. Change the color of the kitten to ginger. The puppy is not in every image generation consistently. Can you fix the prompt so the kitten and the puppy will show up more consistently in every generation? Awesome, so that worked. Now let's change the background a little bit again. Change the background to be on the top of a mountain. Let's add a few more steps in here. Maybe that will make things a bit more consistent. Make a Tyrannosaurus Rex chase after the kitten and the puppy. Change the environment to be in a prehistoric jungle. The puppy doesn't show up consistently in every image generation. Can you try to fix that? So the puppy doesn't show up consistently here, so we can just try to restructure the prompt a little bit. Let's say here, can you mention the puppy first before the kitten in the prompt? We're still missing the puppy, so what we would do is ask it, can you restructure the prompt a little bit so that, it's a little bit different because the kitten and the puppy don't show up together in the image right now. Okay, here we are with two kittens instead. All right, so here we have the puppy and the kitten. So now let's add, for example, a volcano in the background. Add a volcano into the background. Make the volcano erupt. Let's do a few more generations with different seeds. This is pretty cute, but it's two kittens right now. Let's try a few more. Let's just try to rewrite the prompt and then can you try to rewrite the prompt from scratch but keep the exact same content but just convey it with different wording since the puppy and the kitten don't show up consistently in every image generation? Right now we only see the puppy in every generation but not the kitten. Can you put the kitten a bit earlier in the prompt if it isn't already? Just try something to fix this issue. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. So as you can see, without spending, without typing a single word, we have generated, several images actually within what, 15 minutes or something, or 10 minutes. Obviously, once you get a hang of it, you can create things much, much more rapidly. And the great thing about this is now we can, for example, turn this almost into a movie, right? So we could, for example, use these as image inputs for, Kling, for example, or Runway ML to use for image to video generation. For example, what we can do now is change things up, like as if we're creating shots. So, for example, let's tell it um, change the views so the kitten and the puppy are seen from behind over the shoulder of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. I guess this prompt might be a bit too challenging for it. Change the camera setting to high angle. Change the camera to be a bird's view. The bird's view camera setting is not really working. Can you change things up a bit to enforce it better? For example, if our instructions don't work very well, then I actually start to read the prompt. So let's have a look. From a bird's eye view, in an ancient jungle with towering ferns and old trees, a fluffy ginger kitten with bright blue eyes playfully bats at the greenery. A cheerful fluffy puppy with a waggling tail barks and chases after the kitten, unaware of the impending danger. Suddenly, a gigantic Tyrannosaurus Rex appears, its powerful legs crashing through the dense under sunlight streams. So the prompt seems a bit complicated. It also sounds a bit like as if it's writing the prompt, describing it shot by shot. So this is not what we want. So let's tell it, you know, can you change the prompt so it is conveying a single image rather than multiple scenes, and also try to remove some details that are not so very important so that the scene is conveyed more generally. Now we forgot to set this to 1. So let's do that and press Q again, because if we don't set this to 1, then it's just going to use this and not actually apply, our changes. Now let's read it. From above, an ancient jungle with towering ferns and trees. So we want the kitten and everything to be mentioned first before the jungle. So let's tell that to ChatGPT. Can you change the prompt so that the kitten, the puppy, and the dinosaur and the camera setting, which should be bird's eye view, are mentioned before describing the environment? Also, it misunderstood something here that we said. The environment should be a prehistoric jungle. So we kind of have like a high angle thing going on here now. Let's cue again. So the thing is, this doesn't remember our previous chat. So every time you press start, it is like a completely new chat, unfortunately. So there's no real chat history. So you have to basically, because now it doesn't remember anymore that you wanted the jungle to be before the, so we have to tell it again. Can you move the environment description to the bottom of the prompt? Can you add bird's eye view to the beginning of the prompt? Can you add bird's eye view again at the end of the prompt? In a new sentence, can you add bird's eye view at the middle of the prompt? So basically what I'm doing is like mentioning it multiple times to enforce it more. So yeah, this is kind of a bird's eye view now. Not this. So these are basically the limitations of diffusion models currently. They can't comprehend, especially when there's a lot of details going on in the descriptions. It can struggle with following the prompts exactly. But yeah, there you have it. This is basically a very convenient way of working. Not a single word typed. So yeah, I hope this will be helpful for you guys and hope you enjoy it. So I will also be looking into adding an open source LLM for the next version, which is then going to remove, having to have an API key and creating extra costs then. So yeah, that's it.